90%. 90% of your investing success, that is your returns, can be determined by your level of diversification. So, what are the three levels of diversification? How important is diversification? And how exactly can you do this? Let's go ahead and break it down. Obviously, diversification is important. We're going to obviously set the table, as I always tell you. And it is so important. As you see in my hand, we are going to break out the blackboard. Okay, that is how big this is and how important I want to impart this knowledge on to you. When we talk about diversification, we are talking about not putting all of your eggs in one basket, not investing everything in one thing. Yes, there are some great stocks and some great techniques and things out there, but no investment is perfect. I don't care if it's real estate. I don't care if you think it's a perfect stock. No investment is perfect. What diversification is saying, let's spread some things out. Let's have some protections in place. But most people think, okay, diversification is, I'm just going to put my stuff in different things, which is one level, but there are different levels. There are levels to this. Let's break down all three. Let's talk about the one that you probably know of, and then we'll kind of get into some more complex things. The first one is asset diversification. So let's start there. Asset diversification means that we are going to classify these or put your money in different assets. Now, how much you divide your assets is really going to depend on a few things. What is your risk tolerance? People who are older are going to put more of their money, more of their assets into things that are more stable. So think stocks think bonds and cash. So for example, we can do stocks is one thing. Stocks, bonds. It's going to let me write the word bonds here. My pen is messing up. Here we go. Okay, stocks and bonds are the most common, but also we're talking just diversification in general. So it doesn't just have to be the most quote unquote traditional. It can also be things like real estate. It can also, in this day and age, include crypto. And perhaps most importantly too, and people who don't diversify most often sometimes, are people who own businesses. Actually, I'm gonna just put biz here. And the thing here is, let's say you own a barbershop or a food truck or something like this. People put so much money and effort into their business, and they just do that and do nothing else. You still might want to own stocks and bonds. You still might want to own real estate or something like that. And then obviously we have cash here too. And let's just kind of throw that out there. So this is not every single asset out there, but you want to diversify in some level into one or more of these buckets. Again, what is your risk tolerance? What is your expertise? What is your interest in one or more of these buckets? Now, right now, for me, again, my birthday is next week. I'll be 35. I obviously have most of my money right now in stocks and bonds. I don't consider my primary residence right now because I'm not renting it or anything like that. I don't consider my home an investment, so I don't really classify this as quote unquote real estate, but I do have that, I suppose, and I do have a business. So I've got money in different places, but the majority of it is in stocks and bonds. But again, I've got the stocks and bonds category. You can count real estate if you want, so I'm just going to put a question mark there. Clearly, you got some cash, right? I gotta have a savings account, things like that. I have a little bit of crypto, and then I have a business. So I actually do check all of these boxes today, but they're in different percentages for me, right? So I would say of the money I have in the market, I would say more than, we're talking like 85% of that is in stocks. The rest is in bonds there. I have the 6 month savings and more, right? Because I need to buy groceries, right? So we have that. I have a tiny sliver in crypto. We're talking like 2% of all the cash out there. Then we got the house, and then we got the business. So that's just how my money is allocated. As I get older, these things will shift, okay? But that's asset diversification. Most people just stick to that and nothing else. But there's more, okay? Now this one we have talked about before. This is tax diversification. And I think this one is a little bit overlooked because a lot of people just say, okay, well, you know, you should have a Roth IRA, or you should have a Roth 401k or something like that. And these fall into 3 buckets. And the reason why this is important is because when you want to retire early or really, you know, become financially free the way that you want to, or the way that you read about in the books and the stories and the things that you read about and see on Netflix and stuff like that, this is actually how they do it. There are 3 primary buckets. You have the tax later, right? We call this tax deferred. Tax later. It's going to allow me to write. This would include things like 401ks, your traditional IRAs, things like that. And then you have your tax-free. This is going to include your Roth, which is basically your tax now, but you get it out tax-free. And I'm going to put, this is your Roth. And then we're going to put tax now. This is your brokerage, your regular brokerage account. I'm going to put IRA 401k and etc. This pen isn't working the way I'd prefer it to, but you guys get the point here. Okay, so you've got tax later. Okay, that's tax deferred. We're not paying taxes today. I can put money into it. Doesn't matter right now. When I'm 59 and a half, I can pull that money out. I've got tax free. Okay, I'm going to pay the taxes today. But when I'm ready to pull that money out at 59 and a half, I don't have to worry about taxes at all. Okay, that's my Roth 401k. That's my Roth IRA. And then I've got the money that I can be taxed now if I decide to sell. Right now, it's just a regular investment account. You can put as much money as you want. Why is this important? Why is this tax diversification? Number one, I do not know what the tax rates will be in the next 5, 6, 7 years. There will be multiple administrations, multiple presidents, all types of things can and will happen between now and then. In fact, I think 2 days ago, the tax rates, new tax brackets were released. I don't know if they're higher or lower. Talk to your accountant, it's not my job. Okay. But when I go research and perhaps we can talk about them. But the main thing is those rates will change. The main thing is this. When you talk about these tax brackets or when you talk about taxes in general, the diversification is this. The way that most people like to set this up is if I'm somebody who wants to retire early, if I'm somebody that wants to just live off of the market, I have these different buckets and levers that I can pull. So right now, I can't touch, or if I want to be smart about it, I don't want to touch my 401k or my Roth assets until I'm 59 and a half. I am not 59 and a half. So what are my options? Well, my options right now today, I could use the tax now bucket and start to sell off some of those assets and live off of that today and stretch out everything else and then pull from those assets later. And then when I'm 59 and a half, I can either use portions of the Roth and then after that, use portions of the 401k and stretch those things out like that or switch the order. But now I have options. What I don't want to do and what I would not recommend and what most certified financial planners and maybe even accountants would also agree is put everything in a 401k and do nothing else. It's also why you have never seen me say, everybody put everything in a Roth and do nothing else. No, absolutely not. Same reason as to why I don't say everybody put everything in real estate and do nothing else, or put everything in the stock market and nothing else. No, you want diversification. You want choices and options because I want to be able, just like a chessboard, there are different pieces that do different things. And that is what you want here because when you are building wealth, you don't always know what the playing field is going to look like. And I want to be able to say, hey, look, this is what is happening. Let me use this piece and move to this square right now. And that is what we're trying to do. So why do I use public? Because right now, there are no tax ramifications, or rather, there are no restrictions on how much money I can put in, which is great. I have a limit to how much money I can put in a 401k. I have a limit to how much I can put in my Roth. I don't have a limit for Robinhood or Cash App or Public. I can put it literally as much money as I can afford. If I need the money now, I can pull the money out right now. If I make money, yes, I'm going to have to pay a tax on it. That's fine. That is fine because I don't have to sell. I can just leave it there, right? That is optional. I get to control that. People forget that part. I get to control how much I pay based on how much I made and how much I sell. Okay, so I get to choose that. But if I need the money now and I want to quit my job and just live off the stock market and live off my gains, I could do that and allow the Roth to continue to grow. I could do that and allow the 401k to continue to grow. And for the next 24 years, however long it's going to be until I'm 51, I guess more than that because it's the half part, right? Do that, and then I can start to live off the tax benefits when I'm ready to pull from the Roth, and then when I'm ready, pull out from the 401k. Now again, consult your tax professional to see which one you should pull from first, okay, and which one makes the most sense. I did do a video on which one, so go back and refer to that one. I don't want to tell you right now because I'd rather go back and refer to it because we're talking about we're talking about diversification in general before we get into the specifics of that. But also again, tax rates change. Okay, taxes do change, so that may change the order in which you do it. What state you are in does matter as well. So all those things do matter, and that could change your strategy depending on which one you have. But also the main thing is, if you don't know, right, you don't have a strategy, you don't have the diversification, then you're going to be pigeonholed, and you're only going to have one. All right, the last one is this. It's going to be liquid and then non-liquid. And this one is one that I don't think enough people really talk about. I didn't have to put it in a box, but I did. It's only 2. But this is the type of diversification that I don't think enough people really talk about. And it's one that I don't want to say it bothers me, but it is something that, again, usually gets ignored. You need to have liquid assets, things that you can pull from very easily, and then it's okay to have some things that are non-liquid. Now, I came across a post. I don't think this person was very serious or very experienced or even well-versed in finance. It is what it is. But this person said, hey, don't invest in your 401k. Put everything in real estate because you get all these crazy tax advantages and they pay $0 on taxes. Whatever. Okay, the issue is, one of the main issues of all of that whole rant that they said was the fact that real estate is not liquid. Now, notice in my original chart here, the first thing that I said is you want to have different assets, and real estate was one of those. Okay, we talked about how real estate is one of those things. However, if you needed to sell right now and all of your money was in real estate, you may, depending on what the real estate market is in your area, what interest rates may be, what supply and demand, you may not be able to sell it that day. You almost are never going to be able to sell it in a day and get the money that day. And it could take weeks, sometimes months, to get the cash in your hand. Now, some people will say, well, you could take a loan against it and get that line of credit. Maybe you would. That could be like a midway point. But now you're taking on more debt. You would be doing that, and then you're also risking losing the property should you miss a few payments or something happen. Okay, you may not be in a position to take on that debt, and you may not want to anyway. But now you are taking a loan out against it, and now you're risking the asset that you do have. That could be a concern. That's assuming that you have enough equity in the property to do so to begin with. These are concerns, right? Versus having just cash that you could just easily pull out immediately if I need to. Or if I have a stock, depending on where the stock is, again, I got those different tax buckets. If I need to pull out money from Cash App, I need to sell shares of NVIDIA. I don't love doing that, but if I need to, I can, right? I can sell it pretty quickly, deposit it in my Cash App, have it sent to my bank. Boom, I've got an extra $500 because something happened, right? I don't like to. I don't want to have to pay those capital gains taxes if I gain, which we know I have. But if that's the case, I can do that. I can, right? I have that option too. But if I only have my business and nothing else, liquidating a business is not easy at all. You can't just sell You can say, hey, can you buy 2% of my business for X amount of dollars? That's not very easy to do. So you want to have liquid assets, things that you can sell quickly, and non-liquid assets. This is also why I tell, especially new investors, you absolutely should have cash. Whether it's the 6 months, a year, whatever number that you think is appropriate, but I absolutely try and shoot for the 6 months. Have that cash. Do not invest your savings. Have the cash and also invest, because you don't want to have to sell off your stocks and not be able to pay bills or whatever, but also you need that very quick liquid assets, and then also invest too. Have those two things, right? Have that diversification, because also going back to the asset diversification, cash was also one of those things that we did have. But again, diversification, according to some studies, depending on which ones you want to look at and how you want to determine those results, 90% of your success, 90% of those returns are going to come from diversification. But most people only focus on the asset side of things. That's it. They say, hey, look, I want to make sure I got the stocks and bonds right, and just leave it alone. Make sure I got my business, make sure I got some real estate. What they don't always pay attention to is, hey, do I have some liquid assets? Do I have some things that may not be as liquid? Do I also have different tax categories for this thing to protect me from paying too much taxes now? To make sure that I have something that's tax-free for later, and to get some things now if I absolutely need to. You want to have all those things. Now, if you are somebody who's just starting, you don't need to get all these things immediately. I did not have all of these things immediately. The first place I started was with my 401k. I didn't have enough money to check all of these boxes immediately. So take one thing at a time. It could take you 5 years to check each of these boxes, and that is totally fine. Take it one step at a time. But do have it on your radar. Make a list and start checking those things off. It is important to have. What you can do as well is just open a Roth, open a traditional IRA, open a brokerage account, and you can start contributing to one of those at a time. Hit your goal, move on to the next one, whatever it is that works for you. But if you are ready to start moving forward and you need some other stocks to invest in or some other tips and habits to work with, then I have a few resources for you. But before we do that, I also have something I want to start doing. I want to start acknowledging some people who are in our members only. Their names should be on the screen right now. This is everybody. These are the people who currently support the channel as our members. They get exclusive content from time to time. They also get to see these videos first, sometimes days early, but also hours early as well. But if you are someone who wants to learn more about the stock market and also wants to see what some of those stocks are and how it can help you to take this video to the next level, then these are the videos that you want to watch next.